Hi guys, welcome to OG Cars, and in today's video we're looking at two familiar minis on the channel and we're pitting them against each other to see what might be best.
So the two cars we're going to be looking at together today are both minis. So the first one is my car, which is a 2003 Mini Cooper S R53, and then next to it over there you will see Owen's car, which is a 1995 Mini Sprite. Now since we've had these cars we've always wanted to do a bit of a comparison, so that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. So first up we're going for power and performance, which I think we all know what's probably going to win this one, but we're going to look at it anyway. So I'm just going to open the bonnet on my Mini and hopefully not make a hash of it.
Ooh.
Look at that. So there it is. This is the 1.6 supercharged engine that you get on the R53. It produces about 161 brake horsepower, 210 newton meters of torque, and it'll take you from 0 to 60 in just under 7 seconds. Now I've had this car for about a month and I've done about 1,300 miles in it, so I've driven it quite a lot. It's fantastic fun. It's more than enough power for a car of this size. Maybe I'll do a few little mods to it if it is to stay. Fantastic fun and really fast for what it is.
Right, go try and open mine now. Amazing. And then I can't remember where everything is. It's under here. So this is the 1275, or as later known on the later injection ones, just 1.3i. So yes, 1.3 single point injection engine, and it makes about 50 horsepower and about 90 newton meters of torque. So not quite as much as an R53, but pretty close. I think the 0 to 60 is somewhere around 13 seconds. So yeah, not far behind the R53 as well. Okay, so we've accepted that the R53 has a slight edge and therefore it's 1 point to the R53. But the question is, what happens when it comes to the fuel tank? So my Mini is a 1275 SPI, as we know, and it gets fairly good MPG. It's about, and we've just looked at some Fuely figures because I haven't done it myself, it's about 35 MPG according to Fuely, but obviously that's mixed journeys, some motorways, some round town. So overall, not bad for a classic car running what's essentially what, a 1950s engine.
Just quickly, I've just realised how dirty the Mini is. We did Goodwood last week and it did about 500-600 miles that weekend, and I've not cleaned it since then, so it looks horrible. Anyway, the Mini. You are going to be filling this car up a lot. I went on Fuely because I thought, oh my god, this is terrible on petrol. Based on 122 2003 Mini Cooper S, so similar to this, the average MPG is 24 to 25. I've only worked out one journey where I got about 34, but it's still a lot lower on average than the Sprite. So that is going to be 1 point to my Mini and 1 point to Owen's Mini, so we're level pegging. So the next one we're going to do is Practicality, mainly based on boot space. So I want you to all picture this, okay? Because I think the litre stuff on boots is absolute rubbish and doesn't tell you how big a boot is. So you have to go on a very short holiday because you need to cut off a wheel on a 300ZX, and you have to cut it off because it's really rusty, so you're going to need your angle grinder. The door of the garage this Nissan is in won't shut, so you need the door stop, and you're also going to need to rebuild a V8 engine while you're there for one of your many cars, and after all that you're going to want to have a nice bath with your rubber duck. Well, thank goodness you have a Mini Cooper R53, because that will all fit in the boot as it is shown here with its great practicality. Now what we're going to do now is transfer all of this stuff into the Sprite, and we're going to see if it fits in there.
Well, this is the question. Does all of this fit in a classic Mini? I have been camping in there and I fit a massive duvet and 2 pillows in the back with all of my other camping gear and a gas hob and stuff like that. But now we're going to see if I can cut a 300ZX wheel off and various other equipment. Well, the problem is bringing a V8 engine or bringing a 300ZX wheel isn't going to work in your classic Mini because the boot opening is a tad smaller. Although if you are a family of 4 and you're trying to bring loads of camping gear with you, you will be fine. I have just tried to swap my V8 engine and 300ZX wheel upside down, but unfortunately where the rear seat comes up, it's no good having children, you can't fit it in the boot.
So we are 2-1 to my Mini, but I think it's going to lose on the next one, which we've done as maintenance. Now, I'm not going to say that maintenance on this Mini is terrible. We did do a service on it and it only cost me about £40, and that was oil filter and spark plug, so it's done at a really good price. But there's other things on this that cost a lot of money. The one thing I'm going to put into context for you is the supercharger service, which me and Owen are dreading if it hasn't been done on this car, which we're 50-50 if it hasn't. We're still going through the paperwork. Basically, to do the supercharger service, you have to remove the car from the supercharger just to put a tiny amount of oil on a syringe into the supercharger.
And change a couple of seals as well.
Change a couple of seals while you're there, yeah. I mean, it's really worth it for the amount of time and effort you're going to go into it. If you can't do it yourself, it's going to cost you about £500 to £600 with a specialist. It might be cheaper elsewhere. If not, you can buy the kit on eBay for about £110, but then you're going to spend about 8 years of your life trying to change it.
And to put it quite simply, I think you could probably rebuild the entirety of this Mini in the same time it will take you to do the supercharger service on that, because the whole of the front end has to come off, aircon gas out, coolant completely drained and everything, and there's a strange tool to take the alternator belt off and stuff. I don't even know, I just watched a very long video on how to change it and decided that that wasn't something I wanted to do with my life. So I would stick to something like this. So that brings us to 2 all on these Minis now, although now we're going to talk about the base price of the cars themselves. Now, if you want to buy yourself a classic Mini, things have gone up in recent years. I say in recent years, I think they've always been quite high, even when I've been looking at cars, you know, almost 10 years ago. These are a collectible item. They have been for many years. You know, they stopped making them in, what, 2000-ish. So you can't buy, well, you can buy a new shell if you want to, but obviously you can't buy chassis numbers everywhere. And yeah, the values of these cars are going higher and higher. So this set me back about £6,000 as a base price. If you want to buy a Cooper, it's going to cost you more. If you're going to want to buy an original Cooper S from like the 60s, it's going to cost you like 40 grand. So it's yeah, it completely depends on the spectrum, but just to buy yourself a fairly basic one like this, you are still looking at 5, 6, 7 grand.
And this is where the Mini Cooper S R53 is going to take another point, I think, because I paid £1,700 for this car, and that was with a full year's MOT and pretty much full service history. Now, in comparison to other cars I was looking at the time, I was looking at the Suzuki Ignis Sport, I was looking at the Fiat Panda 100 horsepower, which are less power than this car, and in my opinion this is a better car based on the month that I've owned it, and you're looking at £1,000 more for a good example. So I know that this has got a few little bits and like the headlights are a little bit faded and stuff, but fantastic value for your money. So that puts us on 3-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-2. I thought
To
it must
you,
count
to
for a
you,
second,
yeah.
to me. And next we're going to look at features or creature comforts, as you'd say. So we're going to have a look at my Mini first. So this is the interior on my Mini. I'm sure we'll overlay a little shot of it now. But on the Mini, I think you've got really nice displays. So it's very retro styling whilst also keeping it modern. So you've got your digital display for your temperature here. Digital display here tells you your mileage, tells you how long till your next service, things like that. On the later models, it'll tell you your MPG and things like that, but mine's an early one, so that isn't fitted. You've obviously got your radio. I've got Bluetooth connectivity in this car, but I've kept the original radio because I like it. I've got climate control, I've got electric windows, central lock-in, I've got an ASC button, I've got aircon.
Nice.
Great. I've got the electric sunroof, I've got an electric clock up here. Yeah, loads of creature comforts compared to a lot of the cars I normally drive.
There's a fly buzzing around in my car, and that's probably the only technological advancement I have over the R53. I've got a horn. G didn't mention that, I've got a horn. Yeah. So, swiftly moving on, because that means that the R53 is now on 4.2. We're going to move on to comfort of the cars. Now, this one's up for debate a little bit because it is, basically. I mean, this is on old rubber suspension, you know, the old cone style, and yeah, on speed bumps it's not great, but G's got a lowered R53, so again, that's not great because it's pretty harsh on bumps as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of interior comfort, what do you think, G, of the inside of the Mini?
Well, I'm short, so I've got loads of headroom, in fairness. Like, I'm not even touching the roof when I like try and lean up.
And
But so does Owen,
I'm much taller, and I've still
and
got...
Owen thinks he's tall, and Owen doesn't as well. But I've actually got, I've got loads of leg room. We've done a few journeys in this. We've actually done this 4-up as well, and
Yeah.
nobody was uncomfortable. It's not the biggest car in the world, but it did fit 4 adults in here. Pretty not
Yeah.
too bad.
I would say it fits 4 adults much nicer than a Fiat 126 does.
Yeah, 100%. Now join us in the Mini, and we're both like this
You
because
say join us in the Mini, but that was a Mini as well.
that is right. The R53.
This is the R53. You can tell because you can stick your hands out the sunroof.
Yep. And the sagging headlining. Now we're gonna put the phone over at the far end of the dash, but that would mean you guys are a million miles away. So the interior on the Mini, as I said, we've recently done our Goodwood trip in this car, and it's really comfortable. It's a really nice car to be in, nice interior, nice place to be. But oh my god, the suspension on this car, being aftermarket and lowered, is so harsh. Any bump in the road, any pothole, any speed bump, it jolts you up. And bless poor Owen here on the way home from Goodwood, he fell asleep. I hit a pothole and it's so harsh in this car it woke him up.
So for that reason, the Mini Sprites are going to claim the moral victory in this case, because G has had a lower car and therefore ruined. But
Self-inflicted. But we'll give it to the Sprite.
I would say features-wise, obviously aircon and everything makes this a nicer car to drive on a longer journey, yes. But in terms of comfort, between these two particular Minis, yes, my Mini is slightly more comfortable because it does not wake you up every time you go over a speed bump.
Yeah. So we're on to the last topic that we've decided to choose on this one now, and that is 3-4 to my Mini at the moment. But this is another one that I know the Mini Sprite is going to win, because this is following and like kind of the community around them. Now, the Mini community as a whole is absolutely fantastic. It's full of fantastic people, knowledgeable people, and incredibly helpful people. So for that reason, I want to spread a massive thank you to the Mini community, because we've loved our time with Owen's Mini, but also with my R53. I've had a lot of help already, even in the 1 month that I've owned it. I'm in quite a few Mini groups already, and I'm in a few R53 groups, and they are big communities and they do lots of events. And as I say, they've been really fantastic. They've given me a lot of advice on this car, a few little things that I maybe want to change. Everyone's kind of been really helpful, but it has nothing on the following that the Classic Mini has.
And I'm going to definitely take this one as a 4-all, because the Classic Mini, it's just got such an undying community. I mean, it's just never ending. A lot of car groups I'm in have obviously got a lot smaller over the years. Like, look at Wartburgs. I mean, the Wartburg Club was fairly, it was never massive. It was obviously bigger in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's now incorporated Trabants and stuff. It's a much smaller community now. Obviously still very helpful, still an amazing community, but in terms of status of this particular car, people absolutely love them, and not just in the groups and how big the groups are, but how many other people love them. If you see people waving at you on the street, you know that they're looking at this car and loving it. And just kids, they love Classic Minis. I mean, it's just such a British icon, a Classic Mini. And you think of London, you think of, well, I don't know what everyone else thinks of London, but if you were in like a souvenir shop, it's going to be double-decker buses and Classic Minis. That is just how it is, and therefore classic status win. So G, that brings us to a bit of a stalemate now, because we're on 4-all on the Minis.
Yeah.
So I suppose the final words are going to be, what do you guys think? Because it's a very tough one. Because if you asked me personally, what was the better Mini? I would say hands down the Classic Mini is better. It's just a better classic icon, and it's so much fun to drive. It may not be the most comfortable or modern thing, but it still gets fairly decent MPG, and there's still parts everywhere and people love it. But in the same kettle of fish, what would you say?
I would say I prefer this Mini, because I kind of went for, I wanted something that I could use every day. It was comfortable. I say comfortable, I bought one on lower suspension with a loud exhaust and an air filter, so it's not comfortable, it's not particularly quiet, but it's so much fun. Recently I've been trying to buy a car to have a car on the side, and this is the first car in a long time where I've gone, that car is going to stay. But saying that, I do adore that Mini. When Owen had the Mr. Bean Mini and then he had this Mini, we had so much fun in them, and I do really adore them for that reason. But you would probably say similar for my Mini. You've probably would never have thought of having one, but you do quite like it.
Yeah, I think the last point on that really is value for money. I mean, you get so much fun out of a Classic Mini, but it costs you an absolute bomb. I mean, if you buy a project one, it's not going to cost you much, but the amount of money you'll put into it is going to cost you loads. Whereas a Cooper SR53, you've got one that needs a little bit of work, but is ultimately road ready and a daily, and it's barely cost you anything compared to a Panda 100 horsepower or Ignis Sport in good condition.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, I suppose it is a no-brainer. You address the sticker.
I just realised when I bought this car and I took it to Summer Action Day, my friend stuck a sticker in the boot.
Don't go back and look
We're
at it.
not
If you
gonna
haven't
look
seen
at
it,
it,
if you haven't
but-
seen it, I'm going to cover it now. If you haven't seen it, don't go back and look
Don't
at
go
it.
back and look at it.
G didn't put it on there.
No, I did not put
No.
it on there. But I've just realised it's visible in some of the shots, and I was like, oh my god, I don't want people to think I put that car
Mortified.
on there intentionally.
Mortified.
I didn't, but I think it's funny, and I've left it on there. Yeah, we just kind of wanted your guys' opinion. So, what do you guys think? Do you prefer the classic of the Mini?
The classic of the classic.
The classic.
Yes.
The classic appeal of the original Mini and the attention you're going to get in that car and the community, or would you prefer the value for money, the hot hatchback, the power of this Mini? Because we both see the pros and cons to both of them, and we do both love both the cars equally.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. Like, comment and subscribe. We hope to see you all in the next one.